See this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify, get helpful stats, and all the support you need to sound your very best.
Hey everyone, this is Phil.
And Lulu.
Of the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
You're listening to Into the Night.
The Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 319. You are with one of your high priests of Khonshu, Ray. Hello, everybody. And for a very different segment, well, when I say different, it's a regular segment. I've got a new co-host, guest co-host to join me on a very different comic. So I want to give a huge welcome to Kala Torres. Kala, welcome.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Excellent. And Kala is a Black Panther fan, and I thought it would be very apt, of course, to have Kala on the show to chat about a moonwalk that we're doing. Klaws of the Panther, Volume 1, Issue 4. Now, for those of you that may be scratching your heads and going, what the, Ray? Have you gone totally bonkers? Yes, it is a moonwalk. So as I love to explain every time we do a moonwalk, it's Moon Knight, but not in his run. Hence moonwalk. And this time we do have Moon Knight appearing in Klaws of the Panther from 2010. So Kala and I will look at that. But of course, a huge thank you first and foremost to all our patronies. Thank you so much for your support for the show. A huge thanks to Odin Sword, Mario De Giacomo, Daniel Doing, and a big thanks to returning Frank the Think Tank. Thanks, Frank, for returning with your patronage and as a new Moon Knight tier Patreon member. So a huge thank you there. Also, CLZ Comics and Dreamland Comics from Schoenberg, Illinois. Now, before we get into anything news-wise and such, I wanted to welcome you, Kala, obviously first. But for those loonies that may want to know a bit more about you, tell us about yourself. How did you get into comics? And in particular, I guess your Black Panther fandom.
Okay, so my journey to comics started probably about the 90s when I first started the X-Men animated series, and I don't know if you sound like you're from Australia or have an Australian accent.
Oh yeah, I'm from Sydney. Yeah.
Of course. No, we did discuss that. Yeah, so if you may remember, maybe about 20, 30 years ago, a little show called Cheese TV. It was on in the mornings just before school and had X-Men the animated series. I wanted to know a little bit more about it, so I went to my local newsagent and discovered X-Men comics, which led me to Avengers, characters like Thor, Deadpool, Shang-Chi, and from there, now my local newsagent had a very limited supply of comics, so it was a while before I first saw anything to do with Black Panther. Mm-hmm. But it came up when there was a Deadpool and Cable series, when Deadpool and Cable were first teamed up for a number of issues, and then Cable disappears. Then Deadpool starts teaming up with a different character each month, mm-hmm. and one particular month he was teamed up with Black Panther. Well, actually, with the Fantastic Four, but Black Panther and Storm were filling in for Reed and Sue, who were on vacation. And that's where I first found about Black Panther, and I went from there.
Oh, nice. And obviously the ascendancy into more popular culture through the movies would have really kind of made you happy.
Oh, definitely. When I first saw Black Panther in Captain America: Civil War, I had concerns that because they'd given such an amazing introduction, I was just so delighted to see the character come to life, and had seen other characters like Thor come in by that time. Uh-huh. The idea of seeing Black Panther on live action was just the thing of dreams. I couldn't believe this was happening, but I was thinking, please do not kill him off in this movie. That bit when he's taken his mask off and he's talking to to Baron Zemo.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, if they kill him, I'm going to riot. I'm going to throw popcorn. But no, they actually made him a proper part of the MCU, and I was very happy for it. And of course, when Endgame came out, I had a sort of joke to my wife saying, "Oh, look, you can still see Black Panther now. We can go watch his sequel in Infinity War."
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's the Black Panther in the MCU has taken, a bit of a turn through, the passing of Chadwick Boseman, which was really tragic as well. I take it you've seen Wakanda Forever as well?
Of course, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, saw it in the cinemas, I think almost the day it came out.
Okay. Yeah, nice. What I found, I mean, we'll get to it, is like you and I both have read all 4 issues of Claws of the Panther to give us a little bit of
Yes.
context for issue 4. But I did find a lot of similarities with Shuri's journey that she takes in. I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, Wakanda Forever, but she goes on a bit of a journey, and very much so in these comics.
Oh, definitely. I think now, having read Claws of the Panther, I had not read it until it was brought up that you wanted me to talk about it for this podcast. But having read the series, I can see similarities between her growth in the comics and her growth in the movie, which I don't know if they were going to go for that had Chadwick Boseman not passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way they did it in both the movie, without giving anything away, but in the comics, there are definitely similarities in that journey, which I found that the series puts the reader in the perspective of Shuri. You experience the growth as she's experiencing it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's certainly something very much we'll get into, as well as of course the obligatory Moon Knight appearance in that.
Oh, dear, yes.
I love I love finding obscure appearances of Moon Knight, and I guess you can't get any more obscure than this. But we'll have some fun with it, of course.
Definitely.
Yep. So also as well, let's go into just quickly a bit of white noise. I won't dwell too much on it. So our Moon Knight news. What I'm going to throw it first onto the screen and apologies, podcasters. Patronies will have video access to this episode. So the first bit of news is the May solicitations for Moon Knight for Marvel came out not that long ago. And issue 23 was announced. Again, obviously, Jed MacKay and Alessandro Cappuccio following up on their stellar series. We've got, I'll read the blurb here. The Midnight Mission is open to all travelers by night who need aid, even if they're host to the super symbiote Venom. When Dylan Brock asks Moon Knight for help, the two must stalk the nighttime streets together in search of justice. So yeah, pretty cool cover here. Kala, are you familiar with Moon Knight at all? I should ask.
I will be honest. The majority of my Moon Knight knowledge comes from 2 sources.
Mm-hmm.
One is the live action series.
Okay.
So I'm you might call a filthy casual in that regard. The other half of it comes from a very established, reliable source. You may be familiar with a Facebook page called Moon Knight Core.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, the one who started the whole random BS go, and he throws that thing in that that image that's been I've seen it stolen by every single page, from 9gag to apparently some sort of geek themed store sells mugs with that image on it.
Yes.
And that the guy who runs the page says, I have not been. They didn't ask me if they could do it. They've just used my edit, and it's. Yeah, so that's where my Moon knowledge comes from.
Oh, okay, yeah. Look, Moon Knight Core are great. The boys over there, we started about the same time as I think we actually may have started just like maybe a few weeks earlier before them. But they've skyrocketed with their memes. Of course, the Dracula one as well. They're fantastic because they do expose Moon Knight to people such as yourself, Kala, who probably wouldn't have stumbled upon him, apart from the TV series. So, okay, that's pretty cool. Well, the TV series, it's not the TV series, the comic series is very strong at the moment. Color by Jed MacKay. So we've got one cover here, Steven Segovia, Rochelle Rosenberg. There's also a variant cover. So this is by Paul Renaud, I think. Renaud, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Very beautiful cover, kind of very spectral, ghostly Moon Knight. There's also a variant cover here, Spider-Verse variant cover by Declan Shalvey. I also see in the solicits there's a Stormbreakers variant cover. I don't have a visual for that, but all the variant covers are pretty cool. Are you a variant cover collector, Kala, or?
Not so much a collect. I like to collect comics for the stories. If
Fair
I
enough.
have to buy more than one issue, that's just not my thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
But if I see multiple covers, I will go for the one that looks the coolest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, me too as well. I generally get the regular covers, but for titles that I may not be like 100% invested in, I'll get the ones that have the best looking cover, whether they be variants or not. Next up on our news, just a little Moonwatch. We do have a few little tidbits here. There is a Marvel animated style Moon Knight statue being released, and it's a nice little cute little figure. The description, it's 3.25 inches. It's 8.26 centimeters. It's going to be released in August of this year. It's a pretty hefty price tag here, Color. $54.99. I think that's US.
That seems like a lot.
That's a lot for a 3-inch.
Well, in Australian, that's going to be what, $80
$80
at least.
Yeah, for like
that's just a guess.
For like an 8 centimeter tall figure. I mean, so I was a little bit, taken back by that, but it's a little cute little figure here, and I'll read out the description. The Fist of Khonshu has never been cuter. Mark Spector, the Moon Knight, is ready for action in this 3.5-inch tall statue. The Marvel animated style Moon Knight statue was inspired by the Young Marvel cover artwork of Scotty Young and limited to only 3,000 pieces. It comes packaged with a numbered certificate of authenticity in a full color box. Well, I'm glad the box is colored color, because at $60 or at $55,
yes,
you'd want something for your buck there. So anyway, in August, go check it out if you want to complete your collection, loonies. And finally, another thing that's being released soon. I haven't got a date for it, so maybe any loonies that do, hit me up on it. The new fig pin of Moon Knight is going to be released. These are pretty substantial pins or badges, Color. There was another Fist of Khonshu Moon Knight one released a while ago. They tend to be limited as well, so hard to find after a while. Just wondering, with your fandom for Black Panther, I know you mentioned you're a reader. How about merchandise? Are you a t-shirt wearing guy, mug sipping, badge wearing?
To some degree.
Yep.
I do have some Marvel shirts. I actually have an Iron Fist t-shirt that came as a Christmas gift. The interesting thing for it was just before the Iron Fist series came out on Netflix, which I hope I've not triggered any trauma for people who are remembering the series now.
Yeah.
No, I quite enjoyed it, but I can understand why it was not as popular as some other series.
Yeah.
But so this t-shirt I got as a gift. I thought just as a nice thing for my Iron Fist page, because I've got a few pages which we'll always talk about later. I just took a little selfie of myself with the shirt on, and posted it and said it's time, and went to watch the show. Maybe a few days later, I saw a page called for Viral Style and was selling Iron Fist t-shirts. It had my picture saying submitted by a fan, and my wife told me about it, and she goes, no, it's not. She goes, did you send him your picture? I go, no, I don't know who these people are.
Wow.
So I comment, I'm saying, yeah, that's my picture. They're using it without permission.
Wow.
So,
geez.
Yeah, so that...
Did you follow?
Yeah, it was...
Did you follow up on it, or...?
Oh, they took the page down within maybe 2 hours of me commenting on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got some t-shirts. I also have, if you look at my profile, you might see some a picture of my desk with some Funko bobbleheads.
You love the bob
on top there.
Yes, Funkos are good. They're dangerous, I must say. Could go down a rabbit hole.
In terms of expenditure or the environmental impact?
Oh, well, both actually. I like the style there. I was talking more about the former, but yeah, definitely. I guess the latter as well. But yeah,
I have dialed back when I found that they're a bit hard to recycle that side of plastic.
Yeah, true. I'm pretty selective with mine, but yeah, they're fun to do, fun to have, fun to collect. Right, well, that's the news for this week. White noise. Kala, are you ready to get into our moonwalk?
I'm ready to go.
Well, as mentioned,
if that's how we call it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Is that? I'm sorry. This is my first time. I'm still a little nervous.
you've got a radio voice, I've got to say. So, yeah, it's
Oh,
very,
thank
very
you.
crisp and clear. Um, so, loony listeners, as we mentioned at the top of the show, what's on the tin? Klaws of the Panther, Volume 1, Issue 4. It's titled Enter the Black Widow. Release date December 22nd, 2010, with a cover date of February 2011. Writer Jonathan Maberry, penciler Gianluca Gugliotta, inker Pepe Larraz, colorist José Villarrubia Letterer, Albert Deschesne, and editor Lauren Sankovitch. Now, this is available in floppy format, of course. It's also available on digital, so you can catch it on Marvel Unlimited. That's where I read it. You can, assuming you can purchase the digital copy as well from Comixology or Kindle or whatever they are these days. Kala, I'm not too sure. I'm going to lean on you now. Do you know if this was collected in a trade? I'm assuming it may have.
This is, as we spoke previously, my knowledge as a fan is limited in terms of trivia, so I can't answer.
Well, let's just lie. I'm going to lie and say it was. So, 50-50 chance, right?
Oh, that if you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's either yes or no. It's binary. It's
exactly.
good odds.
Now, for listeners that may not have listened before, and what Kala and I will do, we'll go through a bare bones, i.e., a synopsis, to give you a gist of what this issue is. Although I think we will expand it, Kala, to discuss more of the whole series, because it's hard to kind of pinpoint this just to the one issue. And then we'll just discuss our overall impressions, and then go into some notes as well. I guess what stood out, the main beats of the comic, but also anything that really took your fancy as well. And we'll cap it off as always with a rating from Konishu's rating system. So, Kala, I haven't discussed with this with you, and I rarely do with the co-hosts, because shame on me. But with the bare bones, have you got the prompt sheet handy? Are you?
I do have the prompt sheet here. I've got it in a little tab here. I've got it all there. So, right to the bare bones section.
Your dulcet tones, I'll be forever grateful. If you give us maybe the first half. It is a long one, and I'll grab the second half.
So Klaw has Spider-Man by the throat, but instead of killing him, he decides to flee to accelerate his plan. When Spidey goes to tell Shuri, she has a shrewd idea of where he's going. His satellite in orbit where he's holding M.U.S.I.C. Shuri sends schematics to the satellite to Flea, who determines they may need espionage specialists to get to the satellite. Luckily, Spider-Man knows just the person, and he calls Steve Rogers to bring in Black Widow. At the moment, Widow is recovering NORAD codes from Hydra. Up in space, Klaw uses music that her father is a fool to have betrayed him. Klaw then begins to implement his plan to use music to mind control everyone in the world. Music pleads with him to not do this and asks if being made of sound has made him so isolated from others. In response, Klaw snaps at her, stating that being made of sound is a gift and that isolation is preferable to him as he elevates himself to godhood. Meanwhile, Shuri and Widow meet up. They take a Wakandan space shuttle to find Klaw. And on the way, Shuri discusses with Widow whether her compassion is a weakness. At the same time, Spidey calls with the AIM scientist who pleads for his daughter's life, stating that she's innocent of his crimes.
As they approach the station, Flea tells them that Klaw is on alert to their approach. To cover for the infiltration, Flea decides to make a risky distraction by damaging the station and getting hit. Both Shuri and Widow then infiltrate the station, but they are too late. Klaw uses music to unleash the scream, affecting every creature that can hear on Earth. The two try to fight back, but Klaw draws on music's power to amplify his own. Widow distracts Klaw as Shuri gets close to music, but she can't bring herself to kill her, even knowing that Klaw would destroy her and Wakanda in retaliation, as well as find another victim. Klaw mocks Shuri for her compassion, but before he could kill her, music, acting on Shuri's bit of mercy, repulses Klaw from the station. As they free music, they get a call from Fella, who has survived. Flea, I think it is. Yeah. I was wondering in my head, who is Fella? No, Flea. Shuri says that she could kiss him and promises a parade in his honor. Flea asks for permission to faint. Shuri offers to undo what Klaw did to her, but Music refuses, striving to be better than Klaw. Widow then asks Shuri if she's kept her inner demons under control. Shuri admits that she will not let them control. She will not let them control her. Widow comments that she's spoken like a true warrior. So there you go, loonies. It's the finale of a 4-part series. So we get right to the meat of things straight away. I'm going to ask you right away, Kala. What did you think? Overall impressions. What did you make of this issue?
This particular issue by itself?
Sorry, I was about to say this particular issue, but then we might as well say your overall impressions for the whole series.
Okay, so for this issue by itself, I like it. It really does help to culminate the growth of Shuri during this series, and it really does help to contribute to her. I wouldn't say her introduction, but her establishing as a hero. I've made some notes about how Shuri was first introduced in 2005, but she didn't really do anything until 2010 when she has to take over for her brother as Black Panther. Mm-hmm. But she's still a very new hero. She's not just Black Panther 2.0. She's her own Black Panther. Different style, different strategies to T'Challa. And just in case if anyone wants to correct me on my pronunciation, I am not sure on the pronunciation, if it's a silent T or not. The MCU seems to not think so, but I've read in other forums that it is a silent T, but okay. I don't know which one most of the fans want to go with.
Nice.
But yes, I do enjoy this. The art style is very stylistic, especially a lot of the dialogue from Black Widow in particular I found really stood out when she talks about the difference between being a killer and being a warrior. And this is very very prominent to me because Black Widow is like a master assassin, a super spy, and she knows more about killing than most people. But she's the one telling Shuri, look, compassion is a strength. You don't need to think like a killer. You have to be a warrior.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I enjoyed it as well. I think it was a very solidly written and a really good looking book as well. I think, let me get the gentleman's name correct. Gugliotta does a really good job on the pens. Just said very stylized. Reminded me a bit of Angel Medina. For those who have read comics, for a while, they know Medina's artwork. Overall, I thought I really enjoyed the series as well, and I thank you for elaborating a bit on Shuri there, Kala, because
no problem.
They make a point that that they had these first impressions of her as well, before she was Black Panther. And so she really, she comes with that kind of baggage, but also as well trying to come out of the shadow of her brother, because T'Challa did make his mark, and we get some events that obviously in the lead up to this that I didn't know happened during the time, but obviously the decimation of all the vibranium, that sort of stuff, venturing into the savage land to get vibranium. You mentioned Black Widow's conversation. I felt that very much coupled with Shuri's conversations with Wolverine in an earlier issue as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there was almost the same language. I think Wolverine talked about warriors as well. So
I can check that, but I believe you are correct. But with the Wolverine, what struck me the most there was the fact that Shuri's actually gone to him for advice on how to control her anger and her rage, because she in the previous issue she's made a bit of mess of things by letting her thirst for vengeance cloud her judgment.
Yes.
And Wolverine's first response is, "You've got anger management problems, and you're coming to me."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, also because the clues have led me to Madripoor, and if anyone knows Madripoor, it's going to be you. So
sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we have AIM targeting some peddlers, I guess, of SLV, Savage Land Vibranium. There are a few of them in Madripoor. So this is another issue, Loonies, issue 2, but they go on a bit of a chase there, Wolverine and Shuri. But yes, you're right. Actually, Kala, that conversation, the point of difference is that Shuri's there to ask, how do I temper this or control this? Whereas with Black Widow, she's more like, I feel this, I have these feelings, and Black Widow saying, no, compassion is a good thing. It's not a weakness.
Yes.
We even see Klaw call out compassion as a weakness as well. He keeps on calling Shuri weak.
Yes.
So I like how Maberry, keeps that kind of thematic material, within all the characters. Kala, I'll give you first dibs then. So after
Okay.
our first impressions, what I don't know, what were one of the main aspects for you for this issue that you'd like to jump in on?
Well, I believe we've already talked about her growth. I mean,
Mhm.
I'd like to bring up something else, but really, it is just the growth that Shuri experiences, and that we experience it with her. And it's not a within 1 second she's got all these character flaws, and the next step they're gone. Over the course of the 4 issues, they are progressively dealt with. In the first issue, she makes a mess of things with her anger. She addresses that, talks to an expert on dealing with anger and bloodthirst, and then she deals with someone a bit more grounded. Although we can really see when she teams up with Spider-Man how she is, despite being such an accomplished operative and an intelligent hero, that she's still very inexperienced on how things work outside of Wakanda, because she asks Spider-Man, look, can I hire the Avengers for the night? And in her mind, she's thinking, hey, I'm not asking you to do it for free. I'll pay you guys. We'll make sure you give your make your time is worth it's worth being paid for. And Spider-Man's like, what? You think you can just come in and hire us like we're house cleaners or something? It's like, no, I don't mean to disrespectful. I want to make sure that I'm not just coming in asking for free. It's like, look, want help? We'll help you. We're heroes. We'll help each other out.
Yeah,
but she has that.
Sorry, I like how Spidey just goes, okay, hang on, let me just Avengers assemble,
and no one shows up. They're all busy doing stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And then it's a very consistent and gradual growth over 4 issues. So when she does have that discussion with Black Widow about how being a warrior is about not just killing when it's necessary, it's also about pursuing peace. It's earned. It really is established. The only slight issue I had, it's such a minor thing, but I do want to be objective as a reviewer.
Of course.
That the way it ends with Shuri deciding at the last second, no, I'm not going to do what I have to do I'm not going to draw blood. Her compassion does inspire music, but I feel like it was a little bit of a cheat where music's like, oh, she could have killed Klaw all along, or banished him, or whatever she does to him. Just sort of pushes them out of the station.
Yeah.
It's like she could have done that all along. Why was she waiting for Shuri to show? Unless it was more to do with music, not really, because her consciousness is elevated. She feels like a bit of a godlike being at the end.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I hadn't considered that. I actually, I really did enjoy that kind of culmination towards the end, because it's kind of a little bit tropey about the fact that she's been chatting with Black Widow about this whole thing about compassion, and she gets to that situation where she has to decide, and I like it that she kind of like the way it's built and written. Maberry has Shuri going, look, there is no other way. I'm gonna have to kill her. Like I can't find anything else to do, and then against all her intuition, she decided, no, I can't do it. This is in the face of her being obliterated by Klaw, really. So it's a in some people would say
and
it's
world
very
domination.
illogical. Yeah, and world domination. Actually, the thing where Too Late has actually started. We see I love the little montage or splash page of I think Hulk, Juggernaut, Hawkeye. All these characters in the Marvel universe just being affected by the scream. But I like that kind of inevitability of she's going to have to kill music if she wants to fix this, but she still doesn't, because the stakes were huge. But you're absolutely right. I hadn't considered it. Like, music decides then and there to actually take care of it herself. Like, yeah, maybe she hadn't got the thought in her head. Maybe she hadn't realized what she could do. Yeah,
I think that's what they were going with.
Yeah,
it was more about the saving the day wasn't the issue. What was the issue was Shuri realizing, okay, you can solve things without having to kill. But had music not possessed the ability to save the day, then we'd have a much different looking Marvel universe in the comics right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just Klaw. Klaw is a hefty villain. I mean, a master of sound, a being of pure sound. It's pretty hard to fight against that.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved seeing, again, I'm going to hark back to issue 3. I think actually it might be issue 4 as well. Spidey taking on Klaw. I mean, massively.
Yes.
There's no contest
he
there.
can't do anything to him.
He can't. Yeah. And the only
His-
thing the only thing that they can do is use vibranium, but there's none available. So that's the only kind of a kryptonite for Klaw. But sorry, you were
I
about
was
to
just
say?
thinking that.
Yep.
I was just thinking that they do have some of the Savage Land vibranium. I did wonder when they were in Madripoor and they have that they do get access to some Savage Land vibranium. Why she didn't just put some in her pocket and make sure it's in a non-metal container and make a weapon out of it and then fight Klaw with it later. I was actually thinking that would have a bit of a missed opportunity there to make a Chekhov's weapon.
Oh, okay,
sort of
yeah. Well, I took it as, and I could be totally wrong, that because they mentioned that SLV has different properties to Wakandan vibranium, and it only just destroys metal or something like that. So, but having said that, she does sprinkle some on Klaw's hand in an altercation,
Yeah,
and
it affects him.
Yeah, it does get affected. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Speaking of Klaw, one of the other aspects I thought was really good was the conversation between Joya, or AKA Music, and Klaw, and their differing philosophies, I guess, with the power that they do have. Klaw obviously being very hell bent on world domination, or just destroying Wakanda, and I love the language that Music uses. It's more, there's a beauty to what she has.
She's very enlightened.
Yeah. And I thought that was really good. And then actually, there's a really good piece because they do have a couple of really deep conversations. And there's one of being like utter like loneliness, and she broaches that with Klaw. And there are a couple of panels. Look, I don't know if I can find it here in some of the things I've got here, but there are a couple of panels where it does seem to hit home to him, like what she's saying.
It does.
But he quickly bottles
He's
that
determined.
up. Yeah. He quickly bottles up and goes, "No, I want to be alone. Look, I'm going to go to a higher plane, to godhood. I don't need these flesh bags or all that sort of stuff." But I really did enjoy their that character interaction between the two.
Yes, it was. You can see that Klaw could, with his power, there is so much more he could do with it, and Music has already caught on to that. But his fixation with world domination and just getting revenge on Wakanda for constantly being the thorn in his side for all this time, it really causes him to overlook what could have been a much more rewarding existence for him.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like they could basically explore the universe as these godlike beings of sound, and he's like, no, I just want to take over one planet and just destroy Wakanda.
Yeah, there are. As I was reading this, I was thinking, like, Klaw, there's so many possibilities for this character. I don't understand why he hasn't been utilized more, or because he's quite powerful. In the same. I was watching a little bit of Earth's Mightiest Heroes the other day, Kala, the animated Avengers series.
Yes.
And they had Graviton in that, and like I just loved how they depicted him because he's very amped up with power. Like anyone that can control Earth's gravitational pull,
definitely
is huge. So I think similar to Klaw, like he's a being of pure sound. I just thought there was it's good. It's actually good that Maberry used him and utilized him this way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one possibility is because he's got only one weakness, being vibranium. There's only really like a handful of characters that can really do anything unless you've got some vibranium. You just take it off the Stark Tower because I believe that's their windows. The glass panes are actually interlaced with transparent vibranium. But yeah, there's only really a handful of characters. Black Panther, maybe Captain America. I don't know if his shield being a different. An alloy would do anything.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I was thinking that as well. It'd be worth checking out. I just kind of wonder where Klaw is now, like in the current state of stories. It'd be interesting. I've always found him intriguing, especially with that like the flat nose kind of design, and I like actually how Gugliotta has shown that. It's almost kind of like just painted on his nose. Bit
of a Voldemort sort of predating that. It is a very interesting style that they've given for him.
Yeah, exactly. But still, it's kind of modernized, but it's still close. At the end of the day, I guess all of that is just generated from sound, so it's not like real material and such. If we're going to talk like kind of geeky.
Well, you could treat it as, since he is concentrated living sound, if he's choosing his own appearance, it could be how some people have trouble drawing faces. So he didn't know how to make his face look properly. So he just sort of that's how he looked in the mirror. It's like, okay, it looks good enough. That's what I'm going to look like, even though this was a design from the 70s. Try to modernize it a bit.
So if you're saying, so if Rob Liefeld was the master of sound, he'd have trouble with his feet, right?
Yeah, and have pouches everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. No, so some great character pieces here. We spoke about Shuri and her chats, Klaw and Joya. What other key moments have you got, Kala?
Yes. Well, apart from the moments where she's talking to different characters like Wolverine, Black Widow, Spider-Man, I really found that I want to get past the growth. There is actually very at the start of the issue, you've got Spider-Man. Just let me just bring it up to get the
start of the issue.
Digital copy to work.
Let me.
Yeah, you got. Just with Spider-Man being introduced there, he's being held by Klaw, and he's just such a smart aleck.
Yeah.
Just throughout he's only in there for 2 issues, but just the first thing he says is, "I want a vibranium baseball bat." And this, giving his little jokes and quips, like so much for my surrender now before I get rough speech. I made a note where Klaw calls him an insect, and I'm thinking it was a missed opportunity for Spider-Man to be that smart, like to say, "Oh, actually, spiders aren't insects, they're arachnids." But he's busy being thrown.
Yeah, he dangled that. I think Maberry does a fantastic job. This was one of my notes as well with the voicings of some of the characters, especially like sometimes I don't know. Sometimes writers don't have handles on like more quippier characters, or you go the other way around and some writers just write everyone quippy. But Spider-Man is, he's one of the OG quippy kind of characters, and he's got a particular sense of humor, and I think Maberry does a really good job in embodying him in this series. Similar with Wolverine, I was very impressed not only with the aesthetics. I thought Wolverine looked awesome in this issue, again, issue 2, but just the way he interacted with Shuri, the way he acted and reacted to what she was saying, it was very Wolverine. And
all the guest characters, Kaiser, Shana, Wolverine, Black Panther, Black Widow, they all feel like they're their own character. Like you feel that this is Wolverine. This isn't just Wolverine as being written through the perspective of Shuri. It's like know this is Wolverine. Same with Black Widow. Same with Spider-Man. Even Captain America appearing for just one panel. The artwork for his face, I did have I don't know what's going on there, but apart from that, it does very much feel like Captain America, and of course Moon Knight's appearance. I don't think we've talked about that enough. So front and center.
We could talk hours about Moon Knight's appearance here. No, sorry, Loonies. Mooney does appear in just the one panel, and as panel dressing, basically, we got Cap just talking. It's an establishing shot of the Secret Avengers. So you got Beast there. I can't zoom in.
Is that Thor or is that
Valkyrie?
Valkyrie, that makes more sense.
And Cap, of course, as well. So so Moon Knight standing there quite stoically, but he is there. So completionist. I do love finding obscure appearances. If you warrant this one panel appearance, go pick it up. Klaws of the Panther, issue 4. But really, nothing much to say here, Kala, about Moon Knight.
Well, you can't even see his chest symbol, but you know it's him.
You know it's
instinctively. It just cries out to you.
Oh, just this. The posture for me, Kala, the posture that gives it away. So we have to, of course. Thank you for that, Kala. We have to flag the Moon Knight appearance. This is a moonwalk after all. But yes, so I also found, just sticking with Jonathan Maberry, and we're talking about the voicings. I was impressed with his writing. He does come from he's a novelist. So I did sense that. I don't know how many comics he has written up to this point, but I could see that maybe dialogue could be cut down a little bit. Not that it was distracting or hard to get through, but you could tell like a novelist, I think, has written it.
It is a little dialogue heavy, but I found it wasn't excessively so. But if you were to criticize the quantity of dialogue, the line is here. He's just stopped short of it without going too far. He could have cut back a little.
I think he could have cut it back. I mean, look, obviously the important interactions between M.U.S.I.C and Klaw and Shuri and Black Widow and such and Wolverine, they warrant it because the intent, the purpose of those scenes is to discuss. But yeah, there are a few incidental things I think that he could have kind of cut down on. Didn't need to be so wordy, but that's a small quibble. I recognize his name. I've read I recently read an anthology of a Predator anthology novel, and
yes.
he has written the likes of Predator and Aliens as well. So, yeah, I do like his writing. But yeah, that was just an observation about, I guess, the amount of dialogue.
Yeah, well, when we have to really search for things to complain about or to criticize, you can tell that it's a solid run.
It is. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely as well. Yeah, so I was going to pick the other key aspect was MOONY, but that's that's been done, of course. I guess the we have touched upon it is it was about Klaw's master plan. So his master plan was to create the Scream. I loved it. I love this concept of the Scream, and Joya or Music. She's the daughter of one of the AIM scientists. I'm assuming she is a mutant. Is that right, Kala, or something? She's special in some way. Or?
This is my first introduction to music. From what it says, MOOSIC stands for Multi-Frame Universal Integration Codec, and I've made a note that it's the most awkwardly forced acronym I've ever seen. Yes. It seems that she seems to be the subject of experimentation and possible exposure to Savage Land Vibranium or antimetal. I don't know a hell of a lot about her.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if she kind of begins and ends here. I think she's quite a minor character. There is a little thing here that she was an opera singer. I guess that's what kind of has some sort of connection with her and M.U.S.I.C. But I don't know. I wonder whether she. I don't know whether she had some sort of enhanced ability which kind of prompted Klaw to use her. But anyway, that could be a story for another day. Yeah, I just thought that was the master plan of using the SLV to literally, and they mention it to even Thor will be on his knees licking Klaw's boots. So
we've even got characters like Juggernaut, the Hulk. Yeah. The character's normally impervious to mind control. Juggernaut with his special helmet. The Hulk being normally resistant to telepathic intrusion unless it's for a very high order.
Yes.
You've got other characters. There was one thing I didn't mention in my notes, but I was just thinking of now that you mentioned all the characters who would have been affected. They state specifically that the Scream affects all characters who can hear. Yes. So it was a little bit of a missed opportunity to mention Echo, but I think they might have been worried it would have distracted away from Shuri, who you have to remember whose series this is. It's Shuri's series.
Yes.
But if they brought in Echo, would have been immune to this, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
and Hawkeye to some degree.
And Hawkeye to some degree.
Hawkeye and Echo.
I was kind of thinking that as well. Like the moment that the plan was revealed that, it's all the Sonic thing and people that can hear, it's like, well, hang on. Like we the first thing that went into my mind was not that he's deaf, but was Daredevil going, okay, we've got characters that, have different abilities or, who kind of like Echo as well. So a little loophole there, but yeah, I don't think enough to really kind of ruin the overall idea.
No.
Yes.
Well, there was one thing I was thinking of is that the whole reason Klaw really should have gotten away with this whole thing. The only reason Shuri is doing anything at all is because she just happens to be in the Savage Land at the same time that AIM is there getting all this Savage Land Vibranium. If she wasn't there to try to get some Savage Land Vibranium and try to restore Wakanda's economy, like she says in the first issue, look, we're not exactly broke, but we're not in the best state. If we can get some Vibranium and at least try to rebuild things, that'd be great. If she wasn't there doing that, she would have had no knowledge of what was going on because it was only Shana looking for Kazar.
Yes.
Otherwise, word might not have reached the mainland and no one would have known what was going on. And the Avengers were all busy except for Spider-Man and Black Widow. Black Widow was busy. She just happened to be finishing a mission. That's
very true. Yeah, it was due to the depletion of vibranium that Shuri kind of started this whole caper in the Savage Land. Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, playing the devil's advocate, you never know. Maybe she has because she obviously harbors a huge hatred for Klaw, the death of her
Oh,
father,
yes.
stuff like that. So maybe she had tabs on him anyway. I don't know. I mean, but you're right. I mean, if you look at it on face value, it was just a coincidence that came through. I thought it was a really nice intro. Just going into issue 1, and to have very obscure like Savage Land, of course, it's Kazar and Shana as well and Zabu, but I thought it was really refreshing as it goes. If you're looking at kind of guests. Like Shana was drawn. I mean, 2010. I guess
Yes.
she's got like a piece of string as a costume.
Basically.
Yeah. But I mean,
it is basically how they dress there. But yeah,
Yes.
I was thinking the same thing.
I didn't read because I don't read. I've not read much Shana or Kazar at all. I didn't realize she was like the veterinarian. I didn't realize. I just always imagined them to have kind of simplistic kind of language. It's like almost being like I
No,
don't know, like canon. Yeah.
Kaiser's quite intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dress like they're from the Stone Age, but that's just because they can't exactly go down to Kmart and buy some clothes. They've just only got what they've got there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it was really interesting to see. I really enjoyed that first issue. Well, like I said, like I enjoyed most of this. Um, any other points here? I wanted to just talk quickly, Carla, about Flea. I thought Flea was a very cool,
Oh yes,
concept.
yes. He is basically the guy in the chair. If you've
Yes.
seen, like in Spider-Man, I can't remember if it was Spider-Man: Homecoming or Far From Home, the one where Ned's talking about like he's the guy in the chair with the headset and the computer, and he's trying to guide Spider-Man. Flea, for those who don't know, is Shuri's man in a chair. His chair is in a space station orbiting, or like some sort of spacecraft orbiting Earth. So he's got direct access to all their satellite network. He can feed intel, give blueprints to buildings. Basically, he's the one whispering in her ear. Okay, there's another guy down the corridor. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when I think it's safe to say that we've had gone into spoiler territory. There's that bit where it looks like he's had to sacrifice himself. I thought, I'm not okay with this. I'm not. But it was a necessary sacrifice. But then it turns out, no, he was okay. I'm happy for that.
It was good though, wasn't it? Because he was kind of his fringe character. He's on the fringe enough to kind of like Mayberry. He could kill him off, and that would have an impact because we do like him. But
hugely so.
Yeah, so I found that a very effective technique that Mayberry utilized with Flea, but thankfully he does survive. I love how he's got a little bit of a crush on Shuri. But yeah, as you said, I love the idea. He makes Shuri like the world's finest detective. She could ask for anything just off the bat, and he's there to kind of give her intel. It's just such an awesome idea, and the fact that he had a part in this final issue, like a bigger part, I was quite happy to see. So
yeah, when he's like, oh, if I can just get some time after this, and he talks about just before his what we thought was going to be a sacrifice hour, 2 more weeks. And I was actually going to, get some time off and actually meet Shuri, because we don't. It's only brought up then he's not actually seen Shuri face to face.
No, that's right.
So he would have, if he would have sacrificed his life for her without actually having to meet the person that he's crushing on, but still keeps a professional working relationship with. And Shuri she would have had to have, borne that the weight of that grief. But Black Widow, she keeps her centered, saying, look, if you don't focus on the mission, he's died for nothing. And I'm thinking Black Widow's, well, she's obviously speaking from a place of experience. She would have been in that place where she's had to let a teammate sacrifice himself. Otherwise, it's the mission or the mission fails. You have no in between. You've got to make sure you stay on mission, even if you've just lost your best friend of how many years in just a brutal, sudden way. But I think it would have gone a bit too. They didn't want to make this too dark of a series.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it's kind of, you go through the ups and downs and the highs and lows, but it's like a Marvel comic. It's not too bleak. So that was good. The tone was kind of maintained. I wonder. I mean, I guess we can find out later on in research. But Flea, whether or not he was a Wakandan himself, or whether he was an
I believe so.
Okay, I wondered, or whether he was an external
Flea
contractor.
was.
Yeah.
This is where I do have some knowledge. Flea was introduced. I can't remember if it was during when Shuri's first appearance as Black Panther, but when Shuri was branching out to actually, I believe it was. She was tasked with going after Namor, or getting some intel on Namor and what's going on in Atlantis. And Flea is like a voice in her ear, like the earpiece. So this is not his introduction. He has been around before this.
Okay, he's got a pretty cool aesthetic as well. I mean, you don't see his face, but he's got the armor. I'm not sure.
Well, he's in space, so he's got to have a space.
Well, true. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. So sorry. So yeah, any other significant points that you'd like to raise, Kala, about this issue?
I think we've covered most of the significant points.
Yeah.
I think the portrayal of Shuri overall as a female character, as a woman and a hero, she's not portrayed outside of her weight class. She is portrayed appropriately. So there's no real plot armor. She doesn't even have her vibranium armor, because any vibranium weave in her suit's been rendered inert.
Yep.
But she holds her own where it's appropriate when it's. When she's up against Klaw and there's nothing that she can do to hurt him because she's got no vibranium, and that's the only thing that can hurt him, it's portrayed realistically. Klaw beats her up, he kicks her butt, and then he goes off and does what he wants to do. But when it is time for her, when it is appropriate for her to beat people up, she can do so. And she's shown as intelligent, but not. She's not a Mary Sue, which I do appreciate, because the representation for female characters increasing. It's not where it needs to be, but it is increasing. It is. I feel it is done right.
Yeah.
Not just with her, but also with Shana. Apart from the artwork, I don't know how they could really avoid it, as they give her a wardrobe revamp, and also with Black Widow.
Yes.
Black Widow especially. I think she was my favorite of the guest appearances.
Oh, yep. Yeah, no, she was quite good as well. I was just having a look, because something that I was reminded of during it as well. I will say, I think even maybe just this issue, I can't remember over the other ones as well. There were slight differences in art. Did you pick that up as well, Kala? Like if you look,
not massive, but very subtle. I don't know if they had different artists for the different issues.
Yeah,
but maybe were the artists different for the different issues, or were they the same?
That's a good point. I'm not too sure. But I will say though, like in this issue, so if you look at there's the last shot of Shuri there. If you imprint that in your brain and then recall how Shuri was depicted, I guess in the earlier issues, or maybe even earlier in this issue, in the run, the art is significantly different. So not that I really picked up on it, but I did feel that it did fluctuate. Maybe it was just this issue. No, because the first page, if you look at the first page, it's very much consistent with the art for the previous issues. Like, that
it could just be.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just working on those panels. It's a Friday afternoon. They just want to get out of the office, just go home. Let's just wrap this up and go home. I think the artists were consistent. I'm just looking at them now. So Maberry Gugliotta and I don't know how to pronounce the other name, Villarrubia.
Oh yeah, Villarrubia. Yeah.
So I think that's the same. So you've got for the first one. You can find it on
that's correct.
It's mentioned on the cover.
Yeah, that is correct. And so this one had Pepe Larraz as well, as listed as artist.
Oh yes.
So
increase the art team in the subsequent issues, maybe 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Because I don't see Larraz on the first one.
Yeah, right. Okay, because interesting. I mean, Pepe Larraz is this is 2010, so a lot could happen, in 13 years, because his artwork is miles different, I think, these days. Anyway, a small observation.
So go on. I was going to say Larraz was in. He was mentioned on both 3 and 4. He's not mentioned on 1 and 2.
Right. So maybe 3 and 4 was where there was like a little bit. I mean, it's not too disconcerting, but there are the slight. You when you read it, you kind of go, "Oh, hang on, that face looks a little bit different to the way faces are portrayed." But yeah, so I did pick up on that as well. But yeah, like I said, not enough to really make things off-putting. Having said that, though, what I thought we'd do with moon rating systems, Kala, as well. I've got this in the prom sheet.
Oh yes.
Let's give damn it. Let's give 3. Let's give a rating for this issue. Let's give a rating for the overall 4-parter because it's a small, nice little mini series. And let's give a rating for the Moon Knight appearance because we are a Moon Knight podcast after all. So.
Oh yes. So do I get to contribute or vote towards it? I was going to say.
Yep.
I was going to say maybe. Do you have an option for maybe say 3.5 or 4?
Yeah, 3.5. Yeah.
For anything for me to give a 5 stars or 5 moons.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is out of 10. Sorry. Yeah. So we're
out of 10. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm just looking at the first bit. I'm going to say an 8. It's not a 10. 10 has to be perfect. It has to be nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely.
9 has to be basically completely perfect. I'm going to say, if I could even say 8.5.
Okay. Yeah,
I would recommend it. I'd come back and read it again. There are some little tiny issues, so it's not a perfect run, but then very few runs are for me.
Yep. Okay, so that's for the run, right? For the 4 parts. So let me just
for the 4 parts.
How about for this issue alone, like issue 4?
This issue alone, I'm going to say because you've got the bit at the end where it's just basically, music just decides all of a sudden, oh yeah, by the way, did I mention that I can just save all of this? And Shuri's just, I actually found it to be a bit out of character for Shuri to decide to show compassion. This is probably the worst possible time to show compassion. If music didn't have that little way out, you've basically doomed the entire planet.
Exactly.
So, out of character, minor issues with the art, but nothing too disconcerting. So I'm going to have to say just an 8.
8 out of 10. I'm just
not perfect. It's good, but not perfect.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm just logging that into the prompt sheet. And finally, what do you think of the Moon Knight appearance? Was it everything you expected and more?
500. No, we're going to go, you know what? It's 10 out of 10. You know it's Moon Knight. I'm not being facetious. You know it's Moon Knight without the symbol. He's not throwing his little crescent moon things. He's not talking to his different personalities. Yep. You know it's him. He's front and center. He's just standing there. You know it's him. His presence fills the page. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 10. Yeah.
Wow. Big I'm going to take it, of course. 10 out of 10 there. Nice one. Look, I felt very similar to you as well. I probably... I probably, as I mentioned, I hadn't considered that ending, that little thing that music could have done all along. So the entire run, I'm going to give an 8. I thought it was massively enjoyable. 4-issue run. And as I said, look, maybe he's a wordy guy, but in no way does that detract from it. The art I enjoyed as well. It wasn't bad at all. For the issue 4 itself, I will give it I'll give it a 7 out of 10. 7.5.
That's fair.
7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I mean, Kala, my rating system is if it's really bad, I still kind of give it a 5. Generally, issues that are enjoyable, but don't go much beyond that, I'd give a 6.5, 7. So 7.5 is I enjoyed it a little bit more. It was just really good. It was a nice little character study, and it rounded off the 4 issues really well. I'm unfortunately going to have to go opposite to you. I gave 1 out of 10 for the Moon Knight appearance.
I'm not a Moon Knight fan, so I might be my objectivity. I'm trying to make sure that I am on a Moon Knight podcast. I don't want to upset listeners, but
no.
I'm going to stand by what I said.
Absolutely,
it's definitely.
Hey, look, it bumps up our average, so I'm happy.
Well, I would say just the fact his presence alone has made. I have been meaning to read a bit more about a Moon Knight, so if it makes me into a Moon Knight fan as well, then what more can you ask for? Yeah,
Kala, you are saying exactly all the right things right now. That's fantastic. The loonies will love it. Let me be the bad guy. 1 out of 10. I just thought, look, it's not essential. If you're a collector, look, you don't have to pick up. Really, you don't have to pick up this issue unless you really want to get every single appearance. That was it. He didn't even have any dialogue. Artwork, he was okay.
Well, does he need it though? Does he really need the dialogue?
No,
but I think this series is perfect for Moon Knight fans who've never read anything to do with Black Panther or especially with Shuri. Mm-hmm. So if you want to say, hey, look, Moon Knight appears in this one series, you don't tell them when or where, but you just say, look, get into the series, and they'll read the first couple of issues thinking, oh, look, maybe he appears in maybe 3 or 4 because they're only showing one guest character per issue, maybe. I think Spider-Man maybe appears like maybe 1.5 issues.
Yeah.
But still think, oh yes, surely by issue 4 he's going to appear. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and then, but it's too late. You've sucked them in. You've made him into a Black Panther fan.
That's it.
That's just, and I'm okay with doing that.
Well, that's true. That's true as well. And like I say as well, look, it was really on the nose of like a guest per issue. Like literally, it was clockwork. But I still enjoyed it, like because I love the fact that Shuri went to the Savage Lands, to Madripoor, and then of course she's looking for the Avengers. So there's a shot of Spider-Man just with a self-made hammock of webs of sort. I loved it. He was eating a sandwich. It's beautifully drawn. All right, so Loonies, that concludes this review. We've only just got a couple of bits of feedback here. Kala, would I be able to trouble you for maybe reading out one of them? If that's okay.
Okay, so which?
The first one maybe from the Facebook page. We just got one.
Oh yes, for the Dan Katz bit.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so not in my collection for that single panel of appearance of MOONY, but I'd love that Secret Avengers run that they are trying to get into an omnibus for the first appearance of Mr. Knight.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a fun conclusion with tons of cameos, a good miniseries to point people to that want to see Shuri in action.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Dan. Thanks for that. I think it really does paint Shuri in a really good light. I just know her from literally the MCU, and I knew of her in the comic books as well, but I'd never really read much of her stuff. So this was a really good gateway to Shuri, I'd have to say.
Yeah. So this has been like we're on the exact opposite. Whereas I've never read a Moon Knight comic. My introduction was basically apart from Moon Knight Core, which is an essential resource,
absolutely,
but also from. The series. I didn't mean to ask. Did you find the series was true to the comics, or at least true enough? Would that be a good introduction?
The essence was there. Look, I enjoyed the series. It was very divisive. A lot of fans didn't because it departs greatly from the comic in many ways.
Okay.
But in other ways, it has the essence of it there. So I enjoyed it. I think it would get people excited for Moon Knight, but it's treading that fine line because then when people pick up the comics, it's nothing like the TV show. So that's the only thing.
Well,
yeah.
The same can be said with Shuri versus her. Who I have said that there are definitely similarities. The Shuri we see in the MCU is not the Shuri we see. Well, they're different, very different characters.
Okay.
For one thing, Shuri hasn't lost. Black Panther isn't. He is injured. He is definitely gravely injured and in a coma. And someone's attacking. I believe it was Morlun, who's attacking Wakanda.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so that's right. I didn't really talk about that, did we? How she became Black Panther?
No.
Yeah. So Morlun, if you're familiar with the character, he's a totem hunter. He hunts people like Spider-Man.
Weird.
Represents an element or a type of animal. So he's hunting Black Panther, but there is no Black Panther because T'Challa he's in a coma. He's been badly injured in a crash. So Shuri has to go and become the Black Panther. She's actually rejected by the Panther God, and then later is accepted, but she has to sort of prove herself first.
Wow.
So that's
so cool actually, because I really do. I love Spider-Verse. I love the Inheritors and Morlun and Solace. So the whole family there. The fact that he's hunting another totem just is awesome. I think it expands him. Yeah, cool. So no, thank you, Dan, for that. Thanks for those comments. Please keep them coming in. Just another one from Facebook, our group, and this is from Sakala, one of our valued loonies here. Doug is part of a DID system. So we've been learning a lot about DID through Doug and Lena. Can
I ask what DID is?
Dissociative identity disorder. So
yes, sorry, of course, yes.
Yeah, so it's so you have alters. So Moon Knight has Jake Lockley. He's got Jake Lockley, Stephen Grant, Mark Spector as alters, and of course Moon Knight as an alter. That makes for a very interesting character. The Incredible Hulk, more recently, Bruce Banner has been said to have DID as well. Hence his different Hulk.
What used to be called multiple personality disorder, but they call it DID now, or have for some time now.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So Doug writes in, I ended up reading the entire miniseries on Marvel Unlimited because I didn't want to feel lost jumping in at the end of the story. Very good. So did so did I. I hadn't heard of this miniseries before, me neither, but it was a lot of fun and a well-told story. Agree. I liked how each issue had a different guest star and location, but yet it didn't seem too forced. It felt like it was a natural progression within the story they were telling. As for this last issue, I'm a sucker for a good space story, so I loved it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and I was really impressed by the complex characterization of Moon Knight and the vital
That's
role.
what got me.
And the vital role that he played in this issue. If you've read the issue, you will get the humor in that last sentence. Doug, thank you, Doug. Of course, yes, Moon Knight shone in this absolutely. Fair to say, probably his best appearance yet. But thank you so much, Doug, for that, and thank you, Looney listeners. It's not too late as well. Get your comments in. Let's get the discussion rolling. This is an obscure issue to talk about, but hey, it is a moonwalk, so Moon Knight is in it. Kala, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. How do you feel like the first podcast appearance?
I hope I have contributed as to your expectations.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate being called upon. When you first sent me the message, my first response was, is this a scam message or something from social media now? And I realized I had to look through the message. I'm like, oh wait, no, okay, so a scammer's not going to know about my all my links site. So yeah, but no, when I found out, okay, this is legit. Oh, you actually want me to appear on something? Because I didn't. Just the fact that I've been noticed and been brought onto something, I do appreciate it. Thank you for having me on your show.
No worries, Kala. I think you and I did chat online a few years ago. Because we have we have mutual friends, mutual Iron Fist friends.
I do know the guys from the Sons of the Dragon.
Yes, yeah. So we did have a little chat, but that was a few years ago. But I'm so glad to actually have returned and to have you on the show, especially for a show about Black Panther and learning more about Shuri. So thank you. Before you go,
No problem.
Would there be any plugs? I know you have a massive page. Where can Loonies find you?
Okay, so if you want to, I've got a number of sites, Facebook pages, and some other social medias. The main page is allmylinks.com/Sage Outsider. Outsider as in like the outsider from Dishonored. Mm-hmm. So Sage Outsider, and that's the same for my Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. But the allmylinks.com/Sage Outsider, that will just direct you to all of my pages, including a couple of meme pages. Just be aware that if you do decide to follow me on social media, I post absolutely no content whatsoever. Although I am going to be, there are some projects I'm working on, so if you do want any updates, that's where you would get those updates from.
Fantastic. And as always, Looney listeners will have Kala's links in the show notes for you. Well, you've done all the hard work for us by having that all links website there, Kala.
Yes.
So awesome stuff there. Go check it out. It's really good chat about Black Panther, Iron Fist, anything comic-y. Get in there. Also, as well, just a bit of a shout out on our spectacles. I was invited onto the Signal of Doom's 300th episode. That should be out very soon. Had a good old chat with the guys over there. Just a little bit of fun, all for your pop culture stuff. Go check that out. A bonus episode for the Patreon members will be coming out soon before the end of the month. This time for your monthly bonus episode, I'm joined by DJ Nick from Happiness in Darkness, and we discuss one of the awesome films out there, Leon, or The Professional, by Luc Besson, starring Jean Reno and Natalie Portman. So we had a lot of fun there. If you want to hear that discussion and things like that, please consider becoming a Patreon member. And finally, Spider-Woman podcast. It's coming out soon. Just got to tweak some knobs and organize with Saren, but we will get there. We're going to be covering the start of Bendis' New Avengers, so I can't wait for that as well. The next phase, Looney listeners, it's going to be a waxing crescent. So if you look up into the sky, you'll see the moon will be a waxing crescent, and it will be a Lunapic Modern Run review. And backtracking, we're going to go back to the Houston run of 2006 and 7. So Moon Knight Volume 5. We're going to start looking at the arc of Midnight Sun. So that will be fun. So keep your eyes and ears peeled out for that. I'll post up a discussion thread and we can get the discussion happening. As always, a big thank you to our patroonies. Thank you so much, everyone. Odin, Frank, Daniel, Mario, Justin, Derek, Wayne, Josh, Anthony, Russell, Michael, Drew, Matthew, Jonathan, and Dan. Thank you so much for all your support. It just helps us prop up the show. Able to do funky stuff. And if you want to become a Patreon member, just check out patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight. Our big sponsors, a big thank you to Odin Sword. Go check out Drinking Marvel podcast. Frank the Think Tank Dukes, his podcast, I Want to Fight It podcast with his nephew Pablo Candy Bar. Daniel Dewing's Fringe Night. Go support it at patreon.com/Fringe Night 27. As well as CLZ Comics and Dreamland Comics. Use the code MOON and get 20% off their store. Finally, we're part of the Collective. A lot of great shows. Go check it all out. They're so cool. Gamma Charge, the strongest podcast there is about the Hulk, as well as the likes of, I'm going to say, Dread or Dead. Judge Dredd, that's a cool one. And finally, I will shout out again, Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist podcast. Go check out their great stuff there. Finally, on where you can find us and where you can contact us, let me just shove it up here. Send us an email at feedback@itkmoonnight.com. We've got the website as well as we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. The handle for all of them are the same, ITK Moon Knight. So with YouTube, it's youtube.com/@ITK Moon Knight. Just check it out. Yes, as well as Podchaser, Get Vocal, Discord as well. We've got a Discord channel that's going great guns too. So with all that, again, Kala, thank you once again. I hope maybe we can find a excuse to have you back on if you're willing.
I've had such a good time. I would say, yeah, definitely hit me up anytime. I do have pages for also Shang-Chi, Thor, and Iron Fist. So I wouldn't say, like I said, I'm not an expert in these characters. I'm just a fan. But Marvel characters in general, as long as it's one that have read at least some of, you're more than welcome to ask me on.
Awesome. Shang-Chi, I'm there. If you want to, yeah, absolutely. And Thor as well. I love Thor. Anyway, I'm a big fan, as you can tell. Thank you, listeners, once again. And as always, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Take care.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.
Hello, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
And we're hosts of Capes on the Couch, the podcast where comics get counseling.
Superheroes don't always get to go home happy. That's where we come in.
We offer psychiatric and mental health analysis of comic book characters.
So check us out at capesonthecouch.live and across all social media platforms at Capes on the Couch.